Good day, everyone. Welcome to Global Government News. Today is Tuesday, October 12th, 2010, and I'm Darko. Welcome to this news bulletin video. I'd like to ask my new listeners to please visit ggnonline.com. That's www.ggnonline.com. And you can learn more about me and locate some new videos of mine. So this first article up is going to be about Big Brother surveillance and mind control, and then we'll move into eugenics, along with some other news as well. This first one up is from the AP, and it's titled "Hide the Dessert: Feds Use Psychology in School Lunch Line." This was, on Yahoo News, so most of the people out there have seen this headline. Said by better positioning foods and even renaming them, the USDA revamps how kids approach school lunches. Hide the chocolate milk behind the plain milk. Get those apples and oranges out of stainless steel bins and into pretty baskets. Cash only for desserts. Says these subtle moves can entice kids to make healthier choices into school lunch lines. Studies show food and restaurant marketers have long used similar tricks. Now the government wants in on the act. And I'm not one who believes that the government should have anything to do with your health or what you put in your body. They shouldn't legislate anything into law to prevent or you from doing anything. And it says the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced what it called a new major initiative Tuesday, giving $2 million to food behavior scientists. And Ellen Watt actually pointed this out to me when they're talking about bees. They're talking behavior. Behavior is from the root word be. And it's about acting. Pretty much the society that we live in is a bee society. It's a matriarch. And we're the little worker bees, and we need to behave and be good little slaves, and just listen to the experts, which are the queen bees and the little magician bees that produce the honey. So just thought I'd throw that out there, but that's what it means to behave. And it says scientists to find ways to use psychology, i.e. brainwashing, to improve kids to use of federal school lunch program and fight childhood obesity. A fresh approach is clearly needed, those behind the effort. And it goes on to talk about the obesity rates, but does not talk about what's in that food, what it's made of, GMO, lots of soy, lots of gluten and other things. There's just jam-packed with stuff that's really bad for you. But it's, whatever. They still have the choice to get what they want. And the best thing that you can do is teach them about GMO food and the possible effects of it, and teach them what it takes to be healthy. But you know what? Like I said, it's not the government's job to do that. It's the family's job, and it's the individual. So this next one up is tracking devices used in school badges. 2 districts are the first in the area to use ID tags that raise privacy security concerns. It says radio frequency identification, the same technology to use to monitor cattle. This is funny, is tracking students in the Spring and Santa Fe school districts. Identification badges for some students in both school districts now include tracking devices that allow campus administrators to keep tabs on students' whereabouts on campus. School leaders say that the devices improve security and increase attendance rates. Says it's a wonderful asset. The principal of Bailey Middle School in Spring, one of the campuses that introduced the high-tech badges this fall. They're not high-tech badges. These things have been around for at least 10, 15 years, if not longer. And it was definitely part of an overall plan to have all the students in that tracked and traced, and going through all the bioscans and the metal detectors and having no privacy. But it's also about teaching them, conditioning the younger people to not have privacy, that you have no privacy. But of course it'll all be in what? In the guise of security to protect them and protect the children. So if you're against these ID badge, there's the mind control. If you're against the ID badges, well, you're for missing children. So it says, but some parents in privacy, of course some, it's always some, there's not a lot, it's always a few, a minority, they're clinging on to those privacy rights. Our parents and privacy advocates question whether the technology could have unintended consequences. Well, let me tell you, as someone that's been covering nonstop news for 360 days straight, almost, it's not. There are intended consequences, and I already mentioned to you earlier. Next one up is Google tests cars. Get the heck out of my way, please. Google tests cars that can steer without drivers. This is from the AP, and it says Google Incorporated is road testing cars that steer, stop, and start without a human driver. And remember, the future of technology and policing you and everything else will include machines, and it will exclude the human element. So soldiers, generals, everything will, drivers, bus drivers, trains, everything will exclude the human element, because the ultimate goal is to call off the majority of the population until there's just enough people that are just smart enough to be able to operate the machines. But for the most part, it's going to be a low populated planet with just a few ruling experts with their big estates and their all the other gadgets that they have and their black art in New York, and that's what it's going to look like. And so yeah, so I'm not surprised by this. Some of you have already heard about this, and you can go check it out with the link. Next one up is school settles laptop spying case to protect taxpayers. Says school district accused of spying on students at home via laptop webcam has agreed to settle 2 student lawsuits for a total of $600,000. The Lower Merion School District Board of Directors released a statement Tuesday morning saying that it decided to settle in order to just, move on and, quote, protect the interests of our taxpayers. Yeah, right, dude. What kind of garbage is that? That is just a sick statement to put out, man. To actually propose that you give a shit about people's tax dollars, and that's how you're going to settle. Not because you were spying on students' laptops at home and then charging them for crimes that they didn't even commit. It says even if that meant not being able to share its own side of the story. Says the webcam issue first came to light in February when high school student Blake Robbins was disciplined by his assistant principal for engaging in improper behavior while at home, the evidence for which was apparently a photograph from the built-in webcam on a school-issued laptop. Once the Robbins family filed this class action lawsuit against the district, the FBI began investigating the case as well as to see whether the school had broken any federal wiretap laws. Well, they're wiretapping everything, and under the Patriot Act, they can do it, so what they're telling you is a lie. Children who get more than 2 hours of TV a day can suffer psychological damage. This is from the Mail Online, and this is something that I was just talking to my friend about all the old timers would tell, because I was born in 1980, and so the old timers would tell you, oh, don't watch too much TV, it's going to rot your brains, and you just kind of slough them off and get back to Saved by the Bell or 21 Jump Street or whatever they had on the television at that time. But it says physical exercise doesn't compensate for long periods in front of the screen. It says children who spend too long in front of a computer or television screen suffer psychological damage, a new study warns. And you can be rest assured that this is actually something that was desired by the eugenicists. Scientists who are the eugenicists, who are the experts, also found physical exercise does not compensate for excessive screen time. Says the researchers found no evidence that being sedentary had negative effects, but certain activities such as watching television do. She said people do have an eat a carrot so you can have a cake idea about screen time and exercise, but the study found it does not work like that. This next story is up from GCN, governmentcomputernews.com, and it's titled DARPA wants, quote, pre-crime technology. Well, of course they do. That's their whole mojo. That's what they do. That's what they're spending your money on, to try to take more of your rights away, to try to track and trace every single move, place, transaction that you do. It says, and because you're a slave. That's why. I mean, people, if you're a new listener, you're asking why. It's like, well, because you're a slave and you have no personal freedom. And they want to, the government and the people that control the government, your masters, your parents, who view you as children want to, keep tabs on their children, because you are, in essence, assets. You are an asset, and you are 60 years of a tax-paying slave, along with all the other services that you pay for that they offer. So, in the Tom Cruise film Minority Report, specially trained agents detect and arrest criminals before they commit their crimes. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is seeking algorithms that will allow it to do something similar, according to Wire's Danger Room. But instead of finding criminals among the general population, DARPA wants to find troops at risk of endangering themselves or their compatriots. So they're going to test it on themselves first, and they're going to test it out on the public. Recent incidents, such as the fatal shootings at Fort Hood, which I believe is a false flag, and the release of the classified information via WikiLeaks, has some military leaders on edge. And here's a nice Nazi-esque statement right here. He goes on to quote a DARPA statement: "The focus is on malevolent insiders that start out as good guys. The specific goal is to detect anomalous behaviors before or shortly after they turn into bad guys." So if you're a good guy, and you realize that you're working for a criminal government that kills women and children in order to expand their empire, well then, and you actually start to talk about it, well then you become a bad guy. So you might as well just join the Al-Qaeda. Marine Corps considering a new class of cyber warriors. The leaders for the Marine Corps are considering a potential new cadre of special cyber warriors who may never see deployment. The Military Times reports the group would be responsible for cyber warfare and would work the computerized front lines from desk here at home. Says the Marine Chief for Cyber Warfare, Lieutenant General Flynn, isn't offering many specifics. Of course he isn't, but he does say that the cyber warriors could face longer enlistments, 2 years of which would be spent just in training. And I can guarantee that's going to be in psychology, sociology, and police training. It's going to have that sort of training in there, and they're going to be bloggers, and they're going to be these people that leave comments, such as the ones that will leave comments on this particular video. I can feel it. That have to fix the facts, and they go according to a flow chart. And the first part is basically to fix the facts, and the last part of the last step of that process, that flow chart, is to, if they basically cannot win that argument and spread the disinformation, well then they just basically don't respond, or they'll put out some surly comment like, well, you're just going to do what you're going to do anyways, so I'm just going to be rational and logical, and you can be just a crazy conspiracy theorist. And that's pretty much what they're going to get trained to say and do. So, government and politics. Obama's NSA pick has Fannie Mae and Goldman Sachs passed. President Obama's new national security advisor spent the decade prior to joining the White House as a legal advisor to powerful interests, including Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, and as a lobbyist for Fannie Mae, where he oversaw the mortgage giant's aggressive campaign to undermine the credibility of a probe into its accounting irregularities, according to government reports and public disclosure forms. Next one up is the physics. The new class of malware will steal behavioral patterns. Next one up, living under a flight path may be bad for the heart, says a study. Next one up, McDonald's Happy Meal resists decomposition for 6 months. Next one up, Pfizer rejected by U.S. Supreme Court on lawsuit related to menopause drug. One patient treated in U.S. Stem cell trial. World hunger level is alarming. Says 1 billion people suffering from famine. A new global hunger index released by the International Food Policy Research Institute shows that some 1 billion people have faced famine this year. This is, of course, eugenics, folks. The true mission of the Crisis Pregnancy Center, unplanned pregnancy. And check out this disinfo piece put out by the New York Times, where there's a center that offers people who have unplanned pregnancies to actually have the pregnancy, not kill them or abort them. And they offer services for that, free of charge. Hefty physicist, global warming is a pseudoscientific fraud. Another one from the Register, much of recent global warming actually caused by the sun. Hey, go figure. Google and friends scheme offshore windmill army. That's interesting. World's military projects dominate space. Air Force secret space shuttle, missing a